Okay, we are on the east side of the garage, and this is our electric meter right here. And that cabinet is too high, and it's painted closed, so that's the best look that we're gonna get for this. I'm seeing over here, it looks like I can't see that it's grounded, to be honest. Rain gutters above grade. Main sewer clean out. Inside the garage east wall, you can see where L1 and L2 come in. They should have protective covers on there. If you don't know those are hot, you don't belong in this cabinet. This is your main neutral coming in. It should be wrapped with a minimum of 4 wraps of white tape. If you don't know that's the main neutral, again, you don't belong in this cabinet, but that's the case. So we're looking for our bonding, we're looking for our grounding, and over here on the ground bus, okay, we're only seeing one ground wire, and that goes to the bonding for the water heater inside of that closet. Now the water heater doesn't have to have its own electric disconnect switch. Alright, you can see where it's grounded. It's bonded over there, but it's in the same room. So whoever's working on that water heater would have to have the door open. That's a physical impossibility. And barring storage, then whoever's working on the water heater would be able to determine whether somebody was in here flipping the breaker on them or not. So there's that. Speaking of flipping the breaker on here, what's this one? I don't know. So we don't have a grounding rod that I can tell. The wires are coming in. I don't know what the 6, 8, 10. Really? So it's not properly labeled. Only 4 screws were holding it in. The middle screws are missing. Not supposed to have a gap in the cabinet more than 1/8 of an inch. That compromises the fire blocking. Cables are not supposed to be touching the cabinet cover. These are white hots because it's a 220. These are white hots right here. White hot wire. If you don't know that's hot, you don't belong in this cabinet. I get that. But they're supposed to be wrapped with black tape. And by the way, these leads are awful long. Alright? The leads are pretty long. Shouldn't be that long. We'll write that down. Long leads go into some of the 220 circuit breakers. And we notice when we get inside this cabinet, some of these circuit breakers, they fit in one pole, but they're stackable breakers. Some people call them cheaters. And I don't know how far it goes up, but over here I can see that they are allowed, at least in the bottom section of this cabinet. So I really, it's probably alright. I don't know. If it's over 30 years, you might want to have an electrician to look at it anyway. It's 200 amps. We got white hots, white hots, white hots. Now you can double lug. You shouldn't have paint inside your cabinet. All that contamination. Paint and debris in the cabinet. Alright, you can double lug your neutrals. You can double lug your grounds because they're there for an emergency. We're not expected to see a problem with that unless there's an emergency. Okay, but triple and quadruple your grounds, you shouldn't do that. Alright? Some brands 3 is the max, some brands 2 is the max. But no brand is there a half a dozen or more as the max. They're just not. Now these white wires, these are called neutral. These are hot. But these white wires in here, these are called neutrals. And they complete the circuit. When you turn on the light switch, the energy comes out of the breaker, goes around the ceiling fan, and comes back in here, completes the circuit. Everything's running. So anytime a switch is on, anytime a motor is running, anytime a light's on, current is coming through these. So the only time current comes through these is during an emergency. So because of that, these should be treated like these, and you should not double lug your neutrals. So we got a triple lug neutral right there, but double and triple lug neutrals, you shouldn't do that. You shouldn't do that. Then, maybe not when this house was built 30 years ago, but now our clothes dryer is supposed to be GFCI protected. Now our range is supposed to be GFCI protected. Everything except the condensing unit is supposed to be GFCI protected. Apparently this is an all-electric home. Look at all these things. So this is what we got. Okay. Now, that being said, what am I saying? Oh, arc fault prevention wasn't required when this home was built. Arc fault is kind of like ground fault. Ground fault is like on the hairdryer, the little test button. Okay, that's to protect people from getting shocked. It might trip during a lightning strike and save your laptop, you know. Well, that's good. But that was an incidental. You know, that was an accidental save. Arc fault might trip and keep you from being shocked, and that's good. But that's, you know, again, that's not its design purpose. It sparks. It sparks. So just about everywhere inside of your house now is required to be arc fault protected. Just about everywhere. You know, all your bedrooms, all your living rooms, all your, you know, studies, offices. It's not required on your patios. Not required in your attic. Although GFCI is if you got that mechanical equipment up there. So what did we learn? We learned that I cannot find a grounding wire. Okay, we learned that our bonding location is not labeled. We learned that we got gaps in our cabinet. We learned that we do not have protective boots on L1 and L2. We learned that our main neutral is not wrapped with white tape. We learned that we've got white hots with long leads. Okay, that should have been wrapped with black tape, and that should have been wrapped with white tape. We learned that. We learned that we got double lug neutrals. We learned, I already said the gaps and not the label. We learned that our wires are touching the cabinet cover. We learned that our breaker box is not electric load center, service panel cabinet, breaker box, call it what you will. We learned that it's not properly labeled and it's missing the 2 metal screws. We also learned that we have bundling, We also learned that we have bundling. And so what the deal is with bundling is see all these little holes? That's for these. See these big holes? That's for these. You don't know where this cabinet is going to get installed, so they put these big knockouts up here. Then the electrician, instead of knocking all these little holes out and running wires, you're not supposed to bring 2 in at a time. It brings a whole mess of them called bundling. And we also learned that we've got some bundling going on here.